All right, guys, welcome to another episode at Moving Commas Podcast. I'll be your host, Amar, and today's topic is going to be covering a little bit more in regards to, how to be unstoppable in sales. And I like using that word because I really like to get into the nitty gritty of just the approach and the overall, norm and frameworks that are around this specific skill set. Is the highest paid, skill that you can acquire as either a business owner or say, let's say that's just your primary thing that you do and on a career basis. Having the skill to actually sell and how to even get good at that skill set, again, there are a lot of different areas to cover. You sell in all aspects of life, when it comes to your relationships, in school, your friends, let's say, your again, day-to-day relationships are always focusing on selling, whether it's a product or service, or it's something that you're striving for as an outcome as well. There's a level of intent and persuasion that has to go in when you're trying to get things out, or have it go your way. So we generally grew up with this skill set and this trait. Some people figure out a way to make money with it, and I think I just want to focus on the topic of how this specific skill set can put you in a position where you're potentially never go broke. Especially if you acquire the ability and the skills to actually even do high ticket sales, where we're at right now in the industry too. This is something that can be developed, and over time, anyone can learn it as long as they boil down to practicing and getting in enough reps. Now, the way I got around to getting really good at sales, I started my own company 4 years ago, and it's called Prolific. And essentially, what we do is we help real estate agents acquire more appointments through driving traffic, through means of advertising, and we go ahead and convert that traffic or leads into booked appointments. So, as that was one of the main things that I was trying to sell. And of course, the only way you can grow your company is if on the front end, you know, someone is driving sales consistently. And of course, the main thing that I needed to figure out was how to actually communicate and provide value or create enough value where I can even muster up the confidence or the courage to get in front of these real estate professionals. So, what I had done and how I got around to doing this, of course, when your backup is against the wall and you decide to start a company, you kind of have no choice because you're wearing majority of all the hats, in your business. You don't have any employees. You have to do everything from point A to point Z. So when I figured out that that was the main variable that I needed to actually focus on majority of the day, which is staying outbound and getting my product and service known, was actually the only thing I knew. So out of pure, dedication and just pure tunnel vision in general, I never actually thought I was in sales until someone told me about a year into running my company that you're a really good sales guy. Like you're really good at closing. And I realized that, that's just something that I do in order to actually run my company. But little did I know, was that it was one of the main variables that allowed me to, create cash flow and, allow myself to hire, build, and do other things I got to do, as I start to accumulate cash. Now, I know everyone here is probably in different, stages within either getting around to maybe even getting into sales, or is currently working a job, or is, again, maybe even running a, private offer as a consultant. Wherever you are in sales, it all really boils down to understanding how to communicate and, persuade, go ahead and persuade your prospects. The idea here is that once you get enough reps in and you understand exactly who your avatar is and who you're getting in front of, you have to have the ability to be extremely confident with what it is that you're selling, whether it's a service, product, or let's say an outcome. Boiling it back to just my story and how I've learned, and again, everyone can apply this in different manners, is I sucked, right? The first couple of months, I was like, this is brutal. Like, I need to figure out a way to either get someone to sell this for me, or I need to get in a better position where I can stand a fighting chance. The light bulb for me, when I started to close deals, or when I actually had people wanting to have a conversation with me, when I was genuinely intending to drive value and just figure out how I can help them. Because when you're in a position and you're confronted with, like, obviously the outcome that you want to drive the sale, like, as a beginner, the only thing you can really think about is how to get that person to somehow magically, pay for whatever service or product. And you try to figure out ways to, that allow you to think that this might be the ideal prospect or it isn't, based off of, the 5 seconds that you're speaking to them. And this is the most common misconception, is that people think that the people that are buying your products or services look a certain way, speak a certain way, and also have some sort of specific demeanor or excitement towards whatever you're doing. The reality is that some people will be excited, some people won't, and mostly everyone that jumps on the call and or you're approaching is in probable need of what you're actually selling. So if you're able to specifically isolate your intention on how you want to drive value to the person on the other end of wherever you're speaking to and wherever they are, you will be 10 times more successful, and you will drive more sales than someone that is, again, let's say really confident. Let's say that, you're in a position where you're simply just driving value. The moment that I had actually gone about doing, my calls, or let's say my sales calls, was I had gotten rid of the expectation on the front end of the call that this person is going to be a client, right? Which, again, I'll get around to that later. Again, setting the framework and having intention is important. But when you have these unrealistic expectations of having someone specific, pay in full on the front of the call without having a specific model or framework to get there, is operating off of hope, which is not something that I really wanted to do. So when I actually took the approach and understanding how these exchanges happened, I realized the best people in this game, have said that it's really just about putting the prospect first. And again, this is very cliche, and you guys probably hear this a lot getting into the sales world, but realistically, if you completely put the prospect first and understand exactly what areas or what missing gaps in their life or business or whatever it is that you're trying to make a connection to is going to have some sort of attraction towards what we are doing, there will naturally be alignment, and there will be a definite cause to operate off of and isolate. So what I mean by that is that if you are genuinely intending to figure out exactly why that person could or should be in a position to actually buy your services or products, depending on where they're at in their business or whatever they want, you will not have a definite bridge in order to have that exchange. And what I mean by that, and these are a little bit more high level topics, but again, when you understand and simplify things, that these are people, and that when you understand how people buy and how they like to do exchanges dating, let's say hundreds of years back, you'd understand that it is all based on relationships and communication. So if you really just get rid of all of the other things that you're trying to learn and put the prospect first and understand your avatar, you will be far more successful in sales. Now, diving into a little bit more on how I got past my first $10,000 a month with my agency, I was simply dedicating my entire day to get people on my calendar. So if I didn't have anybody to sell, I would make sure that I would have a list, a spreadsheet of at least 500 to 1,000 realtors that I can give a phone call to and give a text to or reach out to via social media. Because if I wasn't selling, I was prospecting. And until I was more on the side of selling and I can completely slam my calendar, I would slowly shift over to getting more reps in. Okay? So if you're just starting off and you're simply just trying to figure out, like, why is it that I'm not getting better, or why is it that, like, I'm getting 1 to 2 deals a month, whereas the other closers or other people in the industry are doing 1 to 2 a day, The simple fact of the matter is that you have not done enough reps yet, and you don't have the right experience and the overall time put into the craft in order to know what it is that you're even doing wrong. Okay? So the reality is that breaking down sales is all about understanding frameworks and your ability to drive the highest level of value. So when it comes down to the ask, or when it comes down to the exchange in general, that there is so much value driven and the person is in a good position to get your help that it does not acquire a lot of effort. And again, sales shouldn't be hard. It should be a very simple conversation on helping the other person arrive to a decision that they most likely want to get to. And they're reaching out to you, or you're on the call with them or in front of them in order to get them to that destination. Okay? Now, coming back to the process of how I actually got past my the first $10,000 in my agency, I simply committed around 6 to 7 months of prospecting and getting calls booked onto my calendar, and that is it. And I promise you, I've probably done around 200 to 300 demos of just taking pure crap before I actually knew exactly what I was doing wrong. And I had enough documented evidence and recordings where I was constantly revisiting my calls. And the ones that I did good on, I studied them relentlessly. And I figured out what it is that I did in terms of my cadence, my tonality, the framework, and how I pitched overall, and what I did in those calls in order to create my specific sales process. So, what took me to, running my own, taking my own calls and really mastering sales is when I knew that I was closing at least 2-3 deals a day. And again, for anyone that knows, and it depends on the industry that you're in and how fast the sales cycles are, or how your show rates are as well too. There are a lot of determining factors. But when I knew I was getting really good is when I was able to make a relationship from a cold offer, book somebody in on the day of, and have them closed, and they had absolutely no idea that they were actually going to be a part of our company or be a part of our team or our service in general. So when I knew I could drive that outcome on a 12-hour basis in my business, I knew that I was in a position to start to duplicate myself and create a document or a blueprint or a journey in order to obviously teach other people or my sales guys. Okay. So again, in order to be unstoppable in sales, again, that was a little bit of my journey and a mixture of obviously, my thoughts around how to just approach this. But if you're trying to figure out how to love, the game in general and just being on the front line, you need to understand that only a few percentage of people that are in sales actually make it. And the bottom line, I'd say the fine line between the people that are successful and the people that aren't are the people that simply stayed long enough in the game, past the numbness, past all the pain and all of that other stuff, that got through to a point where they simply focused on showing up and getting the calls done. Which again brings me back to like the last episode as well. Same stuff apply in the small things as they are for the big things. So if you're trying to get good at sales, beyond all of the frameworks and all of the things that you can learn, which are so advanced on a psychological level, on a level where, it comes down to like downselling, there's so many things that you can actually get into. But in order to genuinely get good at this process here, you have to be invested in the person that you're speaking to, and you actually have to make real life, evidence and pointing out certain things in regards to, their situation and what we do in order to have an exchange. Okay, so again, this is a little bit about how to get good at sales. Again, I will be covering this more and more, but as I perfected my process and I got very comfortable, I did around 1,000 sales calls. So if you think that you're going to get good at sales by, just trying it out for one summer, and, thinking whether or not it's for you or it isn't, try to do 1,000 calls or 1,000 sales calls or 1,000 door knocks, and see how that works out for you. Because again, for the people that have been doing this and they can be put in front of anyone or given any product or service as long as it's actually valuable, those people will always know how to make the exchange, because sales is about the people that you're in front of and how you carry yourself through that process. Again, this is Amar at Moving Commas Podcast. This is a quick little short, um, you know, little process and a little bit of a conversation that I put together today. I hope you found value in it. I will be dropping more in regards to this specific topic because it is super important to me, and in my opinion, it's something that is there's not a lot of information out there based off of everybody's documented journey, and I want to make sure I lay out everything as it is. So we will be talking more about this. I hope you guys found value in this. And again, if you are new to this podcast, I would like for you to share on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and or YouTube. And go ahead and just spread the movement and just what we're doing over here, because I want to help as much people receive something from these podcasts, to let them know that everybody's at different stages in their career, and at my stage I'm still learning, but I want to document everything that I've been doing, because I know someone will benefit from it, and or it'll probably keep someone moving in their business and just in life in general. So yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.